There's a problem that I've noticed with these GMT 900 trucks. Plenty of other vehicles do this, but specifically these trucks right here. Sometimes you'll notice a knocking or a rattling or shaking noise, especially when you're going over turns or bumps in your truck. And you'll kind of hear it like that. It's hard to describe without actually driving the vehicle, but you'll know if your truck does this. Normally if you hit big bumps or something, you'll hear a rattling noise in the doors. And people will try to do a couple different things to fix this, like adjust the strikers, and that is not what you want to do. Your problem is definitely your door seals or the weather stripping. This is a really common thing that we have to do on Ford Excursions, and I figured I'd go ahead and do a video on how to do it on a GMT 900. So when I say GMT 900, that's going to be 2007 to 2014, GMC, Chevrolet, your Yukons, Tahoes, Suburbans, and even the Silverados. So what you don't want to do is loosen the bolts for your door striker here and move it inward. That is wrong. What you are going to end up needing to do is replacing your door seals. So whenever we pull this door seal out, I'll show you it side by side with a brand new one, and you'll see why it causes this problem. For whatever reason, my passenger side is worse, but I'm going to show you how to do it here on the driver's side. Now the front and the rear seal are the same part number, but you're going to have to cut 8 inches off a front seal to make it fit on the rear. There's not a different part number for the rear. GM may try to tell you that there's a different part number left and right, and that is also not true. So here is the part that I'm going to use for this truck. On a Ford Excursion, you want to stick with Motorcraft. For whatever reason, the aftermarket companies have not got the Ford ones right. But these GM ones, this company, what is it? The APDTY. I've used them plenty of times. They sell tons of parts for all kinds of things, especially on Amazon. So I'll put a link to these. These work great. All right, first up, all we have to do is remove 2 pieces of plastic. The first one is your sill plate here. Very easy to do. Just pull it up from the edges and you're good to go. If you have rust, that may give you a little bit of a problem. Next up, you need to remove the kick panel up here. The kick panel is this plastic piece that's right behind where your hood pop is. So we're going to grab the bottom and just pull it forward. There we go. We'll have 2 clicks. There are 2 little tabs right there. Beware, this will probably pop your hood, so you'll want to go close that after you finish this job. You'll see down here at the bottom there's a seam. You want to take note of that seam and where it's located. We're just going to go ahead and start pulling up on one side. We'll start on the back here. You'll notice this little nub sticking out. This piece of tubing, this is going to be reversed on the passenger side. This piece of tubing is actually going to be towards the rear of the truck. So we're just going to grab this and start pulling it off the door. Nothing special you have to do, just yank it off. Oh, you know what? Actually, I forgot something. This panel right here has to come off. Just has a few push clips just like the other side. It's also where your fuse box is. All right, so now we've got our old one out. I can go ahead and show you the difference in the old one and the new one. All right, so take a look here. My passenger side was a lot worse. This was pretty much all the way collapsed. And obviously this piece is ripped right here, but typically you'll see this piece here will be collapsed inward and you want all that air gap. That's what you want to have in there. All right, so we want to start off with the piece that has the tube sticking out. And since on the driver's side, that is towards the front of the truck, that's how we're going to begin. Right inside here, you have these little jaws and they are reinforced with metal. There's a very bendable, pliable metal inside here. This is where the channel is going to go. And typically you'll see a little mark from where your original one used to be. So we'll go ahead and work that over and then hold in front, slowly push this thing into place. Sometimes that channel will get bent inward and you'll have a hard time getting it over this. So if you have a hard time, you can't get it on there, flip it over, make sure that channel isn't closed and you're not damaging the metal reinforcement. I'm going to be a little bit in the way of the camera, but that isn't too important. Really all you're concerned about is laying this out nice and flat all the way around. One really important part is going to be when you get to the corners. You want to make sure you really push the seal into the corners as far as it will go. Because if you have any gaps here, what'll happen is it'll put weight on the seal and it'll fall off of places like the roof and stuff like that. For the most part, you can just push it down. You may find that you have to actually beat it with your fist in some locations, especially do it in the corners. So whenever I get to the corners, I like to take the metal channel and actually pinch it in just a little bit. That way we make sure we get a really good bite. The last thing that we have to do is just put these two ends together. So you're going to see we have a hole right here, the one that we talked about earlier that was a little bit collapsed, and this little tube piece is going to go inside there. So I'll just pick up both ends, feed it in there, wiggle it around till it looks like that. Then we can go ahead and get the seal down the rest of the way. So you'll notice there's a little gap right here. It's not the end of the world. This is why the gap is down here, because you don't want that in a place like up at the front where most of your wind is going to be coming from. One more thing that we want to look at is right inside here. I know the lighting is not very good, but the lip of the seal will be kind of rolled over. So you can stick your finger in there just like this and run your finger all the way up to the top right here and all the way back down. You don't want that seal folded in. From this point on, all you have to do is put those three trim pieces back and you're good to go. The process for the rear is going to be exactly the same. You only need to remove this trim piece though, and you are going to have to remove 8 inches of the seal. To do that, you can cut it ahead of time if you would like to, or you can cut it as you're putting it in. So when you get to this final part right down here, then you can cut the seal. That way you don't cut too much. You can use some heavy duty scissors or a razor blade for most of it, but then when you get to the metal piece, you're going to have to use some side cutters. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, I'll put a link in the description to this part that is verified to be good. There are 2 other seal companies that I wouldn't recommend. Go with this one if you don't want to buy the GMs. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. Thanks for watching.